My mother-in-law promised a 10 million yuan reward for anyone in the family who gave birth to a child. My sister-in-law was so desperate to get pregnant that she would do a headstand for half an hour every time after sleeping with her husband. Everyone was making fun of my husband, saying he was infertile, but none of them knew I was already carrying triplets. My sister-in-law was still mocking me, but their laughter would soon die away. My mother-in-law had announced that anyone who gave birth to a baby would receive 10 million yuan, and whoever gave birth to a boy first would get 10% of the company's shares, a fortune that would last for several lifetimes. I clenched my fingers subconsciously, thinking how ridiculous this all was. But almost the second my mother-in-law finished speaking, my sister-in-law let out a gasp and placed a hand on her flat stomach, claiming she might be pregnant. Her words seemed to flip a switch, and her husband immediately put an arm around her shoulders with obvious pride, as if the pregnancy was already confirmed. All eyes in the room, like spotlights, instantly shifted from the expectant couple to me. The atmosphere turned icy, filled with looks of pity and schadenfreude that pricked at my skin like tiny needles. This all stemmed from a routine checkup the previous month where my husband was diagnosed with congenital weak sperm. On the day the results came out, my mother-in-law had looked furious. I could feel my husband tense up, overwhelmed by humiliation, like a hedgehog stripped of all its quills. My heart tightened painfully in my chest. Seeing our silence, my sister-in-law grew even more arrogant as she rubbed her stomach, promising my mother-in-law she would make her a grandmother soon. Relatives around us began whispering, their voices buzzing like flies, each comment emphasizing my husband's inadequacy while praising my brother's virility. But no one knew I had an extremely fertile constitution, a rare trait that made conception incredibly easy. My mother had given birth to my brother and me with no trouble at all, and it was even easier for me. I had been extremely careful about this before marriage, and even more cautious after wedlock, as I got pregnant at the slightest chance. Even fewer people knew that the previous morning, I had taken a pregnancy test that showed 2 clear lines. I had a hunch when my period was late, so that morning I secretly went to a private hospital for a blood test and an ultrasound. While everyone assumed my husband was incapable and that I would never conceive, I was already quietly carrying 3 babies. When we got the results the night before, my husband and I held each other, laughing and crying, too excited to sleep almost all night. We had planned to wait for the right moment to share the amazing news with our mother-in-law as a pleasant surprise. But instead of a surprise, the situation had turned into a nightmare. Watching my brother and sister-in-law's disgusting display and feeling my husband's suppressed pain and shame, I began to doubt my plan to stay quiet for now. But then I recalled how chaotic my brother and sister-in-law's personal lives had been when they were younger, constant parties, changing partners more often than clothes, and rumors that my sister-in-law had even had a miscarriage because of it. Could they really get pregnant that easily? I sneered inwardly and decided to let them put on their show. Once they reached the height of their arrogance, I would gently pop their bubble, and the scene would be far more spectacular. With that thought, the anger and resentment boiling inside me gradually calmed down, replaced by a cold, slightly cruel anticipation. I lifted my head, my face calm and expressionless. My sister-in-law froze for a moment, seemingly surprised by my reaction, then a flash of annoyance crossed her eyes before being covered by even greater smugness. She probably thought I was just too shocked to react. My husband sensed the shift in my mood and looked at me with concern. I quietly reached under the table and squeezed his cold hand tightly. Though he didn't understand, his usual trust in him made him relax a little, and he squeezed my hand back. My mother-in-law watched everything unfold. She glanced at her eldest son and daughter-in-law, looking triumphant and convinced of their victory, then at her quiet, seemingly useless younger son and me, and waved her hand in resignation.